How you been?
Good. How about yourself? Now you're in California, right?
Yep.
So, okay.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
life's good there.
It's good. Yeah. I'm suburban living. So like if you hear gardening chainsaws outside, that's why.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. We moved out to Orange County 5 years ago, my wife and I.
So yeah, explain because there wasn't that show, the OC. It was Orange County. Like I always think of like when I was a kid, I grew up with like Saved by the Bell and 90210 and all this stuff. Like California was so glamorous. Is there still pieces of it or pockets of it that are like that where there's just like hot girls in convertibles driving around?
Yeah, that's where I am.
Oh, okay.
No,
Let me come
I'm
visit you
I
then.
haven't seen the OC, but yeah, this is more kind of classic suburbia out here. It's not as
Yeah.
chaotic as LA
Okay. Yeah,
because
I mean, do you
that's
see like celebrities and stuff like when you just go to the store though and stuff? Because I mean, a lot of celebrities still live out there, right?
in Los Angeles. Yeah, I mean it's an entertainment hub for sure, but more and more I think you're seeing people like a lot of the rock guys I know have moved Nashville or Las Vegas. Uh, uh, yeah, people are kind of all over now. So
Yeah.
this is adjacent, so I can get there. I still
Right.
do a
Like,
lot
how
of
long
work
does
out
it?
there.
Do you go to the whiskey still like sometimes or?
I will, but I mean it's a trek for me. Like I'm seeing my friend Kevin Chown's playing in Steelheart, and they're playing right near me tomorrow night, so I'm gonna go see that. So that's always cool when somebody's near me. Uh, but yeah, that's a bit. I'm probably 50, 60 miles from LA, so in LA traffic, that'll take me 4 days to get there.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a haul, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing with like, I remember one time I think we were in like Hollywood and we wanted to go to maybe Huntington Beach or Malibu or something like that. We're like, we look on the map, we're like, oh, it's only like 30 miles. It'll take a half an hour. No, it's like
Yeah,
a half. Like it's crazy.
I mean, yeah. I talked to friends in Nashville that have said it's turned into that, where getting anywhere is just the traffic's turning into LA traffic. So I guess
Oh, in
that's
Nashville it is?
yeah, like certain areas. I think well, their frame of reference is different. What they
Mm,
think bad traffic is.
sure. Yeah, I'm from Seattle. Well, you lived in Seattle as a child, but I'm
Yeah,
from Seattle, like, and I lived there, like, let's see, until 2008. So like, it was pretty rough. Like, I mean, and you just get used to it. You're like, I remember commuting, and I feel like my commute was like 2 miles, but it would take like 20 minutes. But I was just like used to it. But now you go back and visit, and you're like, what the hell is this crap? Like,
that is why I'm so bullish on the self-driving car because that changes everything. When you can truly take a nap in your car and get somewhere. Not the thing they have now, which Tesla can drive itself, but you got to be involved in it and check in and do all that. But where you could say, "Oh, I got to go to LA and take a nap and wake up there."
oh yeah, they have those here in Arizona and Scottsdale. I see they're what's the brand?
Waymo,
Waymo, yeah,
Waymo,
they're
yeah,
Waymo, and they have these weird. It looks like a Back to the Future car. It's got all this weird shit on it, but
it's
yeah, you
freaky.
see, like you pull up at a stoplight, and you're like, "There's nobody driving that fucking car. What the hell?" And then like you see someone in the back seat, and you're like, "Oh, this is so weird. It's like the
I
future.
know.
Pretty amazing."
Kids today will grow up not knowing they never had to learn to drive.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I used to work in the schools, and like it was amazing how many kids would be turning 16, and I'd be like, "Oh, you getting your license?" Or like, "Nah." There's like no need
Uber.
for it because they got Uber, they got Uber Eats, they got video games and Zoom and all like they don't really need to go anywhere. And if they do need to go somewhere, they get an Uber.
I couldn't wait to get my license. I was in line the day I could get it.
Yeah, no, same. I was like, I just thought that was like a rite of passage. Like, get the hell away from your parents and
Totally.
as a kid, like, and just being able to drive. And to me, like that ties into the whole music thing, being able to listen to music, being able to crank my music
Yeah,
as loud
yeah.
as I want. That was like
Yeah,
a rite of passage.
totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't wait for that. Yeah, I mean, we take that for granted now. I mean, you have every song ever made on your phone right now if you want it. And it's not that wasn't always the case.
No, I remember having in the 90s, I had like the big CD booklet. Do you remember that?
Totally.
Like, and
Oh
you
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think one of them it might have had 100 CDs it would hold. And I remember like flipping through and change. And I remember at first, when I first got a car, I think I had like one of those the portable CD player, and then you plug it in with this thing that was like, it went into the
The
tape
tape.
deck.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was like
yeah.
a, and then but then you go over a bump and it skips.
Yeah, I
It's
had
so
that too. I
crappy.
remember it was a big deal when I bought a CD player for I had an 89 Mitsubishi Galant was my first car. It was completely oxidized, burned oil, was a giant piece of shit. And I had exactly that. You'd take your Discman, plug it into the cigarette adapter to charge it, and then the tape deck would have like this
Yeah.
cord that came out of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It was so crappy looking, but it did work and it was
We
cool.
sound like such old men right now. Like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
back in my day.
Totally, totally. Yeah. And then I remember when I got my first CD player I think it was like a birthday present. I got it installed. And then do you remember like the detachable faces?
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
anyone still
And you
have
take
those
it because
things?
somebody would steal it. You'd like hide it
Yes.
somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was the thing. You had to worry
Totally.
about now you got to worry about your catalytic converter. I don't know if you can detach that and take it in with you, but
Yeah, that you can't. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. You'd worry about getting your identity stolen now. It's a little simpler time.
yeah, it is like surreal though. So it's like, because I remember like cranking Sebastian Bach and Skid Row and stuff in that car. And now I'm like, here I am talking to the guitar player that's working with him that you guys made this amazing album. It's great. I love it, like takes me back in a
Oh,
way. It
thanks,
sounds
dude.
like nostalgic, but also like super fresh. Like it doesn't sound like an album that was made in the 80s or 90s, but there's definitely like vibes of that, but it's like mixed in with like a more modern sound too. Like it's awesome.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, he's said this in interviews where he wanted to make a record that felt like it was 1978, the music he liked, that had a modern sound, but had that feel, at least in terms of like the writing of it. So yeah, to take a step back on that, like this is my second record I got to do with him. And the first one was really a lot of fun. Give him hell. We did that in 2014. And that was a little more rushed in the sense that he needed to get a record done. Duff McKagan was working with him, brought me in. I ended up
Right.
co-writing a few songs and playing on the record. And it's a really good record, but we we didn't purpose build it as much as we did this one. This one kind of started, it was during COVID. Everyone's locked in their houses. I'm constantly working on music all the time for various stuff. And Sebastian doesn't play an instrument, but he's the biggest music fan you've ever met. And he knows when he likes something. And he's got this like really good kind of visceral gauge of like, this is good, this not so much. So occasionally I'd write something, I go, this might be cool for him. And I'd send it to him. And sometimes he'd be like, yeah, that's cool. No, I don't dig that. And then the first two things I sent him were the music for the song Hard Darkness and then the music for the song Crucify Me. And those he really responded to. And then he got kind of really excited about this. And then I was working with Isaac Carpenter, who's the drummer in AWOL Nation. He's a collaborator of mine. And we were in the studio doing a bunch of stuff. And kind of the way him and I work, it's very old school. It's like him on drums and me on guitar, and we're coming up with stuff and recording. And this is cool. Let's do this. And we worked on a track that became Everybody Bleeds, the opening track. And I
Oh,
sent that
that's a
to
great
Sebastian.
one.
Yeah, I sent that to him. And my concept from the musical standpoint was kind of like, was Slave to the Grind meets something Royal Blood would do, the band, something with a
Oh
little
yeah.
more fuzz
Okay. It's got like
and
a punk, it's almost punk in parts, I feel like. And the wah wah pedal is is that what you're using? Is such the
yeah,
tone is
I mean, the primary guitar is this octave fuzz through the whole thing.
oh okay.
It's not a ton of distortion. It's fuzz. It's like, the best example is that band Royal Blood, where they use
I
distorted
love Royal
basses and
Blood.
stuff. Yeah. So
It's
it
only
was like,
two
what if,
people.
yeah,
Have
I
you ever
know, it's
seen them
wild.
live?
No, I haven't.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. I couldn't believe it. I saw that we were in North Carolina and we went and we're like, oh, I got to see this band. They blew me away. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
they're pretty cool. I mean, even how they route the bass to have one that's going an octave up, and that's
Yeah.
kind of how they almost, it's like a fake guitar, almost a version of what like Tom Peterson or Doug Pinnick do, where they have the 12-string bass. If you've seen that, that's tuned. It's a bass string and then two guitar strings at the same note. So you're getting like three notes of the same. It's the same note, but it's three different like ranges of the octave. It's
Oh
pretty cool.
wow. Yeah, this
Makes
stuff
it
gets
sound
so
big.
technical. You obviously know the ins and outs of this. I mean, you can tell because everybody bleeds. That's so cool. But like every song is different. It's not like nothing against like an AC/DC record or something. I love AC/DC, but like a lot of their songs kind of sound like a part two of the last song. Whereas this is like it's kind of like it's all over the place, but there's also a theme. Like it sounds similar, but not
We
like
that
the same song.
Yeah, that was the first song. I sent that to him, and mind you, we're still in lockdown mode and everything when this is going on. And he sent me back a vocal, a rough scratch, and it blew me away. I was like, this rocks. And he loved it, and his team loved it, and it kind of started the like, okay, this is the next record. We're on the right path here.
Wait, when you
So,
say his team, what do you like? Who's his
like
team?
his management and everybody,
Oh,
and the
okay.
label he was working with at the
Oh,
time, it was everyone got really excited about that song, and it
hmm.
was like we didn't have the full record yet, but it was kind of just sending riffs, sending musical ideas to him, then him coming
Okay.
up with vocals and melodies, and just getting it to where we're close, like getting it to
Did he?
where.
Yeah. Did he have other people sending him ideas and stuff? Or I mean, did he specifically pick you that he wanted to work with you mostly and write most of the songs on this record? Because I would think with his pedigree, I mean, he could pick from a lot of different guitarists. And obviously he worked with you before. So did he just say, like, I want to make a record like pretty much mostly with you? I know that he had some other outside songwriters, or did he like get riffs from other people too and just go and picked you out of the other people?
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to ask him. I don't know how that works, but yeah, John Five. This is, I think, the third or fourth time he's collaborated with John Five, who wrote a really cool song with Sebastian called Freedom.
Freedom. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
Arianthi.
solo on that is really cool. With the
Yeah,
laser effects.
he's amazing. Like he's got such a cool style, and just he puts such like interesting textures in all the stuff he does.
Did you
And then
play on that song like rhythm or
yeah,
no?
yeah, I did
Okay.
some of the rhythm guitars on that, just more for cohesiveness of the studio,
Hmm.
just to kind of have some glue in there. But he wrote it and did all the lead guitar
Oh,
stuff.
okay. Because the
And then
riff, it sounds like a kind of like an old school Skid Row song. Kind of like it reminded me a little bit of Big Guns.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, John and Sebastian wrote that, and yeah, that we like hearing it. I just was like, this is so fun. It's going to be a fun song for the record, because some of the stuff I did was more dark, and like you said, there's a lot of like the record's punishing in the sense that it hits you the whole time, but there's like diversity and style on this for sure.
Well, yeah, because like Hold On to the Dream, I think that's one of my favorites. It sounds again, that sounds like the throwback, but also so fresh and new. And it's the insane songwriting and the guitar work and how it kind of starts off slow and you're like, oh, this is like a ballad or something. And then it's like, no, it's not a fucking ballad. And then you just come in with this crazy riff. And I think that makes the riff sound heavier because it starts off kind of slow and soft.
That was his idea. Sebastian wrote me and said he wanted to do a song similar to like Sabbath, Heaven and Hell era.
Hmm.
Like he made these references, not to any song in particular, but just it was that kind of where something starts pretty
Yeah.
and then gets really heavy. And I said, I'll take a stab at doing something like that. And I sat down and worked up something on a 12 string, which almost has like a harpsichord kind of sound to it. And the original musical demo I sent him was like something like 8 or 9 minutes long. So we cut that thing down a little bit, because it was very crazy in terms of
Oh.
like, we went with the prettier section for a huge chunk of time. But yeah, that's one of my favorites on the record too. And when I heard his vocal on that the first time, I was just like blown away by it, like especially the verses. It's so powerful.
Yeah, he said that I heard him talking about this on Eddie Trunk, where he said he to hit the high note, he had to use this technique where he like grabs his ear or something and it like distracts him so then he can hit the high note. I don't know. It was like really interesting. I've never heard that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people, for people to know, I mean, he takes what he does very seriously. I think people see the party animal, like persona, wild man, but him in the studio, he warms up, he goes for a run, he works, he works on this stuff and goes in and takes it very seriously. There's no partying or nonsense, because it is. I mean, that was what was so exciting for me, is getting to work with a vocalist of this caliber, getting to do something where he's going to take it somewhere crazy that a lot of vocalists can't take it. And it's going to be a surprise sometimes. Like I'm going to hear what he came up with and go, whoa, like that's cool. I'm glad I got to be part of this.
Yeah. So like, how does he do that? because that's why when I became a fan when I was in high school, and this again, I was living in Seattle and it was the 90s and it was the grunge era, and this was like not in fashion, but I just remember like listening to Slave to the Grind, and then especially like watching the home videos and hearing him do like in a darkened room live and just hearing him scream and hit the note perfect so high. I was like, how the fuck does he do that? Like, so you got to watch him do that live in studio.
Yeah, I mean, he just has that ability. He can do it, but it's something a lot of guys I think will take for granted, and he doesn't, and he
Hmm.
keeps at it. And this one, I mean, I really was impressed. Elvis and him worked together.
Elvis Pasquette,
The
producer,
producer, yeah, and
amazing
I mean,
producer.
every day coming out of the studio, the vocal takes were just phenomenal. And I think, we did this record. So the way the record came about was, once we had a lot of the stuff close, I got a text from Sebastian. It was, "Hey, Elvis Bisquette's going to do this record," and I had never met him, but I knew his work and was a huge fan. And he works in Florida. We're going to go down there. We're going to live there. We're going to live in the studio, basically. Are you in? I was like, this sounds like a blast. And then when I found out who was involved, Jeremy Colson from Steve Vai's band, he's an unbelievable drummer. Todd Kearns, who everyone knows, plays with a million
Yeah,
people.
I had
Slash,
him on
and
the show. Oh,
yeah,
Slash
yeah.
is involved in this record?
No, no, no. He was. I'm just saying he's in
Oh yeah,
Slash's band. Yeah, but so those, that 4 unit team of like a band doing this
yeah.
record for him with Elvis, and
And also mastered by Robert Ludwig, who's done Van Halen 2 and Kiss Alive, and he's got
it's
a
crazy. Yeah, Sebastian
yeah,
was the architect of that. He was like,
right.
he's such an audiophile that he was like, we got to get this guy. So I was blown away when we got him. That was awesome.
I
But
like it because it does have these really cool and obviously part of it is Todd's bass playing, but the way that it's like sometimes the guitar goes away a little bit so you can hear the bass line at certain parts of the song, like it sounds cool to me, like I'm like, oh, the bass is all thick and then the guitars come in and it's a good like kind of dance back and forth between the and also the vocals obviously too.
yeah, I mean, like when we went there, we started in pre-production, which I can tell you, making records in the modern era is kind of a lost art. A lot of artists don't do that
Mm,
anymore. It's a
yeah,
lot of sending files back and
right,
forth, and it's easy to do. And there's some benefit to that, but that wasn't this type of
true.
record. And Sebastian didn't want that. And this was us in a room. And I think when you're, for me, I'm in a room with Jeremy and Todd and Sebastian, you feel like, fuck, I got to step up and everyone kind of, I hope feels that way. And you're working on parts and you're hearing it and you're kind of seeing where stuff lands properly. And Elvis is so good at that, at knowing, what sounds good and what should go where. And Sebastian has like a real gut instinct for, no, this part kicks ass, do this, like, that's not working. And here's, it's not necessarily here's why, it's just feeling like this is where it should go.
Hmm. So he almost kind of in a way produces it, or would you call that arrangement or something?
Yeah, I mean, there was a funny story. I don't know if he's told it, but the song "Hold On to the Dream," we did the rough like scratch track for it, and he went for a run, and he came back. He goes, "Something's wrong with this song. It sounds horrible." And we were listening to it, going, That's it. We're playing it." He's like, "No, you're playing it different. Something's off." Because
Hmm.
I don't like it. I don't feel it. I don't feel it the same way as the demo. And we kind of just had no clue what he was talking about at first. And then we figured it out. I can't remember if it was Elvis or Jeremy who figured it out. They go, "Oh, I'm missing this one kick drum." And the second that was added, it was so obvious to all of us. We're like, "Oh yeah, it does sound right now." And when you heard it after that to us, but he knew it, like he was feeling it, like where
Hmm.
he goes, "This doesn't feel the same as what we were just doing." And
Interesting.
those are some things sometimes when you're in something like, and your instrument is guitar or your instrument that like you're too focused on what you're doing, and like that kind of perspective
Hmm.
becomes important.
And he doesn't, because he doesn't play an instrument, but he could kind of tell you what to like play it like this, play it heavier, play it faster, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He's
Yeah, because
he's
I know
very
like
involved in that.
I don't know if you're a fan of I was a big Ugly Kid Joe fan. I think Whitfield Crane's one of the most underrated singers. He still sounds amazing, but I heard the similar kind of thing with him. He can't like play an instrument, but he'll tell his guitarist like how to play it, and then that's how they write music together.
Yeah. Yeah. Sebastian very much is that way. Or yeah, or
Okay.
he'll just explain. Yeah, he'll reference something like a sound, or
Mm.
something he'll tune into like that. That is great. Like and then okay, that's where we're responding. We can kind of build something around that.
Or does he tell you like, hey, like you said, you wanted kind of a Black Sabbath Heaven and Hell? So is that like he'll reference another band or something and say, write something that sounds similar to this? Or
No, it wasn't that. It was more just I got what he meant when he said that.
okay,
From the musical standpoint, I got kind of like the pretty acoustic building intro that builds into something like explosive. That
okay,
was, and that was a happy accident, at least from my standpoint of like falling on that, because it did kind of musically, it all worked. And there's elements that were like really proggy and weird, and we arranged it to make sure it fit. And it's his record, and it's about the vocals, and we created that bed where I thought he nailed it.
yeah. Well, and then the single, "What Do I Got to Lose?" The first single, awesome. That's awesome riff, great guitar work, cool music video, sweet solo. But I heard today that I didn't realize Miles Kennedy, did he co-write that one?
Yeah, yeah. He wrote, so that was kind of one of the last songs when we got into the studio. uh Miles knows Elvis from Elvis working with Alter Bridge for
Sure.
years, and he produced Miles' solo record. And he had an idea. He had this, hey, I got this riff and I got this vocal idea, and would Sebastian be into it? And Elvis played it for him, and Sebastian loved it. And we worked it up and made it very much him. And Sebastian then went in and wrote lyrics and wrote his stuff. And yeah, it's a fun, like, that's the most fun kind of like straight ahead, like kick you in the face rock tune, I think.
Yeah, and then like I love the one too, the second to last song on the record, About to Break, and that was the one that Eddie Trunk was like, he was praising your guitar work. He called it I wrote it down because I wanted to make sure I said it right. He said, called your solo a beautiful melody and tone. Wow,
Oh,
that's a compliment from
oh,
Eddie
thanks.
Trunk. I
Yeah,
mean, that guy's got to have like, I mean, he's heard so many songs, so for something to stand out to him, that's pretty amazing.
yeah, that was nice of him. He that was So in the studio, Sebastian, Todd, Jeremy, and Elvis are all psychotic Rush fans. And I like Rush, but it wasn't part of my like growing up where I know the deep cuts. I know Limelight, I know Spirit of Radio. I know the songs that are on the radio, and I like Rush a lot. But these guys know every like deep cut B side, and there'd be nights where we're up late and they're blasting this Rush stuff. And there was this kind of like Alex Lifeson sound of like a chorusy guitar that had a lot of themes to it, and like, I don't know, I just liked it. In that song, I go, I'm going to do kind of an epic, long, almost Satriani-esque solo in this. And I sat up one night watching Goodfellas for the 500th time, drinking wine, and I just was recording ideas with that on the background, and I landed on something, and it felt very self-indulgent and like over the top, but I played it for them and they loved it. They're like, yes, we're doing this. I go, okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, people seem to really dig that one, so that's cool, because that's an interesting, that's more of the proggy kind of like, it goes into different time signatures in that song. The riff is
Yeah.
super heavy. Yeah.
That's what's so amazing about your guitar work on this album is, I mean, obviously there is a couple guest guitars too, but like the songs are just, it's not every song is the same. Like just the tones and things are different. And it's from each song, it's like a journey. And that's what's so cool is that you guys made a full album and it sounds cohesive. It makes sense that you made it in the same room because I think you can tell, like I've had people on that, they're promoting the record and you can, and they tell you, like, it's like you said earlier, like they'll just send the files on Zoom and like the person just gets all the files and then just sings over it. It's like, it doesn't sound cohesive like a record, this
I
sounds like
agree with
a
you.
record.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you. Yeah. And I mean, it's the inputs. Yeah, everyone's great at what they do, and when you get them all together, you can pull the best out of people, and you can say this is shit, this is amazing, and you really hear it too. And when everyone gets excited together in a room when something's happening,
Mm.
there's value in that for sure. It was made. This was made like an old school way of making records that was a lot of fun for all of us. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I think they would agree with me. This was a lot of fun, and I hope that came across.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's like I said, it to me it sounds fresh, but also a little bit of like a throwback too. You know, it's like it's kind of the best of both worlds. Like, because new metal that's a sound, and then there's like the '80s rock, and that's a sound. But this just sounds like classic heavy metal with a modern twist. Like, I think it's great.
Cool. Well, thank you. That was exactly, I think, what everyone was going for, is just what we respond to. There's a diverse set of interests and likes, and
Hmm. Yeah, the last song, "To Live Again," that to me that had Queen vibes. Was that one co-written with Miles Kennedy also?
yeah, it was. So that was Miles had another idea, and Elvis had a guitar riff. That guitar riff is actually Elvis Biscuit's, that opening one.
Oh,
And to me, when we were talking about it, yeah, Elvis had written that guitar riff. It was more, all of us love Boston, and like it was when we were
oh
putting it
yeah, okay.
together, it was kind of like, in my mind at least, I was like, this should be like, and Elvis would talk to me like a Tom Schultz kind of thing, like Boston. And so yeah, that was a Miles idea with an Elvis guitar riff, and then Sebastian came in and wrote lyrics and melody and stuff over the music, and I worked on some of the music with them. But it was going to be the ballad on the record, but an epic kind of, in my mind, yeah, something Boston would do.
Yeah, and then Steve Stevens and he did the solo on "FU." Did he? And I'm assuming that he co-wrote that one too. Then.
Yeah, yeah, he wrote that with Sebastian. That's a
Oh,
wild
okay.
song. That to me was like modern day Highway Star or something.
Yeah. Now, what usually? Because I thought Sebastian was talking about doing a show with Slash, and Slash was like, "Hey, when are you getting the new record out?" And then he was saying, "Oh, I'm going to work with Elvis." And Slash was like, "Yeah, definitely, you should." Why didn't Slash have a song on this record? Like, I feel like that would have been cool to have that.
I mean, I'm sure Sebastian would be open to working with anybody. I mean, everyone is busy and working on stuff, and maybe they're going to write something for themselves.
Mm.
Where, I mean, from my perspective, sometimes when I'm coming up with stuff, I would think of him for it. I'd say, I'm going to do something for him like this, and then it would kind of be more purpose built. And I think Miles had some, Miles' ideas probably were, everyone could kind of hear it would really work for him.
Yeah. How does that work with the guest guitarist? Is it just a thing where like they just volunteer and he just says, "Yeah." I mean, and I'm assuming there's probably maybe some that he had to turn down.
No, he's got a relationship with them, and I mean, I believe, would tell you it's just kind of like, I like this, I don't like it. That's all it
Mm.
is. This
Hmm.
works, this doesn't work. It's that simple.
Yeah. And
And
but he's never been, because you're such a mellow guy. Like I wouldn't imagine you're difficult to work with. Like if he tells you he doesn't like something, you're not like offended, like, "What? How dare you?" Like you're just like, "Oh,
I'm
cool."
I'm not, I know I'm not at all. And at the end of the day, it's his record too. His name
Mhm.
is on it.
Right.
This isn't, I'm fortunate to get to co-write it with them, and I have a lot of fun, and the guitar playing is amazing for me to get to do, coming from like the pop background with people I've worked with, where
Mhm.
it's not as guitar centric. It's such a thrill for me, but it's his record. So, uh, he gets the final say, and this is great. This doesn't work. It's, he's got to go out and promote it and love it. And I think, will be the first one to tell you, like, at the end of the day, he's thrilled with this.
Yeah. So when working with him, like I said, you're pretty mellow, but like he respectful when he doesn't like something? Is he like, no, let's not
Yeah.
do it? Or is he like, "This is shit, this is terrible"? Like he doesn't like yell at you or anything,
No,
right?
no, no, no. It's not that. It's just,
Okay.
uh, and I'm not even as precious about stuff like that. Like, I've done so much work in the TV side of music, where you get stuff rejected constantly.
Mhm.
And you can't be precious about any of this, because at the end of the day, it's just, okay, go back and try to make it work. It's not trying to shove something in that's not working and make it work all the time. If something's not clicking, you move on. And if there's something to be fixed, you all just, at the end of the day, you all want to get to that end. That's that story about the kick drum that was missing. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, we got to figure out what it is to make it work. And we all did, and everyone's happy.
So working with Sebastian is fine, but has there been, I mean, because you've worked with Avril Lavigne and Kelly Osbourne, you work with a lot of different people, probably some that I don't even No, I mean, has there ever been somebody that made you feel like less than, or that was difficult to work with, that where you're like, God, this guy's a freaking asshole? Like, have you ever had those kinds of scenarios happen?
Uh, I've been pretty fortunate. Uh, I mean, there've been people that have been assholes just more as part of their personality, and like none of those people you named, everyone
Hmm.
was great, but like, like a random session with somebody and there's just like
Hmm.
an ego about it, but nobody that you can't work with them. I haven't had anybody. I haven't had a situation like that, so that's been fortunate, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. Sebastian, like he is such a character, but I see what you're saying about the work ethic. I believe that. I do believe that
No,
he
he has a
has a
ton
good
of
work ethic.
passion. I mean, he's
Yeah.
no his. I mean, he is passionate either way about where something's going. But at the end of the day, it's about he really cares about the record being great, and we all did. We all really cared. It's not phoning it in. It's not showing up and going, "Oh, okay." You know, the first night we got to the studio, everyone's happy. We're all kind of like hanging together. We went out to a steakhouse, drinking, having a great time. We thought we were going to be doing that like every night. It's just going to be going out and having a great time. We buckled down. Once we were in that studio, it was stay here, order food, be in the studio, work, like because we wanted to make it a great record, and
How
it
many
wasn't
days?
phoning it in.
Yeah. How many days were you there for?
I was there for 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I
And
think
so
the
what,
whole
do you work every day or?
I mean, there were some days off in there. I
Okay.
mean, people have families and stuff, and
Sure.
and there's when you're in the studio, there's a workflow, there's a schedule of pre-production, tracking this, tracking that, and uh,
So how long is a typical work day in the studio?
uh, for us, it was kind of like a noon, let's say noon to 9,
Okay.
with but it's not, we're not out there, chopping lumber. It's not. It's like there's
Yeah.
there's a looseness to it, but we took it
Sure.
very seriously in the sense that you'd have a bite to eat, or you'd have your coffee, and you'd get in there and start to see what's happening for the day,
Yeah. Because you
like a
love
real like
what you do. It's like you said, it's not chopping lumber. Like if you need to stay later to get it right, like it's not like you're like, oh God, this is terrible. Like you're like, this is
I've worked on projects where people involved are insanely rich, and they're doing it to do it, and they show up and it's more about ordering sushi and checking their phone, and I need to get out of here for this thing. I'll be here for 2 hours. And there's kind of like, there's not a flow state. There's not like ever getting into it where you're immersed in it. And I felt like, and that's credit to Elvis too. The environment he creates there is you are living in a studio. It feels rock and roll. There's plaques all over the walls, guitars everywhere. And you're in it when you're there. It's like we are in a real studio. This isn't like, a guest room like I'm in where there's some recording equipment. It's a real functioning proper studio, and you feel like, okay, I'm here to make a record. There's a different feel for that, for sure. I'm here to make a record today versus I'm here to lay down some tracks for something on my
well, what
laptop. It's very different.
is that something that like a rich guy would just hire you just to make a record just for fun or something? Or is this a thing where like they hire you to make a song for their business or something? Or
I mean, I've had that. I've had like somebody that's insanely wealthy from other areas that just kind of wants to play rock and roll,
yeah. Okay.
and it's every step in the chain. People kind of just don't care as much because if the principal doesn't care, that if the CEO of the company doesn't care about the product, all the employees down the chain don't. And that's kind of when I say Sebastian is so passionate about this and such a passionate rock fan, it's like everyone starts to really care and want to make it great. But yeah, I've had those instances with other people. I've you know even just recording artists in the past, some of them that kind of give up on like caring a lot.
Oh
So
shit, that's sad.
yeah, it is. I mean, I think you could probably you've probably interviewed some people where it's kind of like, yeah, I guess I did this record, and oh well, and I just did it to do it, but I'm going to go out and
Yeah.
it's all about my old stuff, and that's it. Whereas
Right.
someone like Sebastian is passionate about new music, and the fact that this record was received so well, I think we all thought it deserved it, but it's a nice, it's nice to see, but that's what we were intending. We're not making a record just to have, he can go out and tour anytime he wants,
Sure.
and and he doesn't need to make a record, but I think this was a statement for his solo career for sure.
Right. Yeah. Because do these records, do they even make a profit, or do they break even, or do they maybe even lose money? Like, it's not really about the money, right?
No, I mean, you can make money. It's not that. It's the industry has just changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different industry than the early '90s, late '80s in terms of
Sure.
albums. Bands used to be able to go on a tour and could lose money if they were selling millions and millions of records.
Yeah. It
Label
was the
didn't care.
opposite. It was like the tour wasn't, the ticket price wasn't about making money. It was about getting people in to hear the new song so you could sell the record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I think there was like a Motley Crue story one time where they came home from a tour and it was like, how much did we lose? Oh, we only lost 2 million. Like, oh, thank God. And you're like, wait a second, like, because when you think
Wow.
about, but they're making so much on the records
Yeah.
that the labels are all excited, and they don't. But that has flipped. That's a
Right.
complete 180 now, to where artists make a big chunk of their money touring, and because a lot of it's streaming too. It's just a different, but I like the ubiquity of streaming because then everyone can listen to it.
I
And
do.
it's
I do love the stream, but I want to support artists. So that's why I will buy a t-shirt. I'll buy their book. I'll go see a concert. Because I don't pay for the music. I mean, I don't
that
mind.
that
I wouldn't
matters.
mind.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
mind paying more on Spotify. Like, cause whatever it is, my girlfriend pays and she puts me on her account. And it's like, I almost feel guilty about getting all this music for free, but that's why I try to support the bands that I do listen to a lot, that I actually really like their music.
And I think true rock fans feel that way. And there is a quality, getting a vinyl record or getting a CD, there's a quality difference that is just, it is. What I mean by the ubiquity of it is new people can find it. Somebody new who maybe wasn't around and didn't
Yeah.
know those records can stumble on something.
Or if you're
And
kind of like in the middle, like it's a band that you're like, well, I kind of like them, or I like this one album, then you can listen to it and decide if you really like it or not. And
sure, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's just the music industry is an ever changing business.
Hmm. No, and I mean, this is, I think, so far, this is the best album I've heard of 2024. It's my front runner for album of the year. Like, I just love
Nice.
it. It's great. I love every song on it. There's not a bad song on it. Was there any songs that were cut that didn't make like a B-side or anything?
There was some stuff I sent him that we didn't adapt. There was one towards the end I wrote that we didn't do. Uh, just the music. Uh,
Yeah.
so there are ideas in the folder for diving in for the other stuff. I don't know if there was anything else that was fully written that
Or
didn't
was there
make
any
it.
covers that you recorded that you didn't put on the record? Those are always fun.
No, we didn't do any covers. I don't even know if that was a discussion. I don't even know if we brought that up to even do a cover. The last record I did with him, we did a April Wine cover.
Yeah. And then I think he
Ro-
also did didn't he do, was it Back in the Saddle and the two records
on
before?
Angel Down. Yeah, yeah, he did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that never even came up about doing a cover. I think we knew the amount of songs we had going in.
Mm,
So it was like, okay, that's a record. Like, this is what we're working on.
right. And sometimes I think unless you're changing something about the song, to me, the cover is like, I don't even get it. I'm like, okay, if you're just kind of like basically redo the song and it sounds similar, but it's just like a different singer and a different guitar player, but you're making it sound the same. Like, what is the point?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think we were just so focused on being excited about what we were working on. So
Yeah.
that,
How
that
does
never even
he,
came up.
with the vocal production, because you can do things in the studio that you can't do live, and I know that he's very adamant about not using backing tracks and all that stuff. So how does that work in the studio? Because is he similar in the studio, saying I don't want to use auto tune or any sort of weird like studio magic tricks? Or
No, he did takes, man. This was not pieced together.
hmm,
I had a singer friend of mine reach out to me, and he said his favorite thing about the record was the background vocals. And I said, really? And he's like, yeah. He goes, the background harmonies are amazing on these songs. And that's all Sebastian did every vocal on it. There's no other
Mm.
singers. And that's him and Elvis in the room, uh, going through that and working it out and
I'm
getting it
surprised he
right.
didn't have Miles Kennedy do a background since he was co-writing the song. Did he play guitar, rhythm guitar in those, or?
No, he didn't. No, he just sent the idea. He wasn't in the
Mm.
studio with us.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure that would have been awesome. I'm sure he would have loved that. We all
Yeah.
would have thought that was really cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this was go in and do takes, get it right. No, there's no tricks on this. There was no like chopping stuff up and putting none of that.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
had
I mean,
Tom Dawkins on, and he was talking about how he chopped up one of George Lynch's solos. I forget which song it was, but he pieced it together. I mean, I don't even know if it's
it,
true. I don't know if George Lynch acknowledges that, but I was like, that's an interesting to piece together a guitar solo. Sounds like so complicated.
you can hear that stuff. That stuff becomes so, and there are bands that do that well that I love. Some like kind of like more mechanical metal bands where it sounds, you know, we call it on the lines, where everything's like just super choppy. That can be a cool sound, but that's not what we were doing. And you can hear that. That becomes very obvious.
Yeah.
It sounds like a computer.
Yeah, I mean that's like did you see his comment Sebastian's comments about from what was it Ronnie Radke from Falling in Reverse? He had said
Oh
something about
yeah.
them I forget what the original thing was, but I saw this article and I think it was just today or yesterday. He did an interview and they said the headline was like Sebastian reunites two feuds. There was that feud and then the one with Chris Jericho where he said I'm as much of a wrestler as Chris Jericho is a singer, which is just it's just funny to me. I don't know, but like
He,
do you see that side of him in the studio where he's kind of
uh,
talking shit and
no, he doesn't talk shit. He's not. It's he's such a like back to he's such a passionate rock fan, and I know him and Eddie Trunk have been on this like real live rock and roll without the laptop doing tons and tons of backing tracks. I mean, you do go to shows and you'll just hear like walls of guitars and there's one guitarist up there. And, outside of like, I mean, my personal thought is if there's some icing that you want to use or a synth line or something that could be there, like that makes sense to me. But when it sounds like there are multiple musicians on a stage and they're not, it gets a little silly. And I'm fine with it if that's your trip. Like if that's what you're into and your fans are into that, great. But I think, the era of rock and roll and his audience, they don't want to see that. And I wouldn't want to see it either. I wouldn't want to go see a show. I'd rather hear, you know, the guitar player go do a solo and the rhythm guitar's cut out and it's just the bass. But maybe on the record, there's a rhythm guitar there. We don't need to put that on track live. Like it doesn't always need to be there. You can let things breathe. And a live performance is different than a studio performance.
yeah, no, I agree. As long as if it's something where like, I get if there's a piano part for one song and it's like
Yeah.
you're gonna hire a full-time piano player to play one song, so then maybe you just play a track for that piano part or whatever.
I think I think a lot of pop artists were really comfortable doing this to the point where like more and add more to the tracks live. And then certain rock artists started to get okay with it. Like, well, okay, it is easier. It is, I don't have to push this. I don't have to push my voice. And, especially for a singer, I'm not talking about him. I'm saying any singer, you have to go out on stage and maybe your voice isn't feeling great that night, but you're going to really deliver a performance. It's like, well, this guy gets to lip sync over here to a
Mm.
track. And it just,
Yeah. Well, it's
it seems
different.
phony.
Yeah, I mean, because like with Falling in Reverse, because I like them. They're actually a cool band. I think they have interesting sounds, and I see
Elvis
there's
Bisquette produced one of their biggest records. They're great.
yeah. I mean, they have like if you listen to the music, like it is like industrial. There's tech. It's kind of like Nine Inch Nails, right? That's what I think of like Nine Inch Nails. Like you'd have to have some. So I don't know if we would call it backing tracks or a keyboard player or somebody helping out. You can't play that all with just
Yeah, I think that about like Bring Me the Horizon too. That's another band in that
yeah,
genre where it's like there's so much production going on in the music that's interesting. And
right.
yeah, that's a good example. Nine Inch Nails or even Depeche Mode and the like layers
Mhm.
of 10 synthesizers and like you got
Yeah.
two guys up there. So,
Yeah, but a
yeah, I
guy
get
like
that.
Sebastian, he doesn't, I mean, then it's just like it's like a fake concert. If a rock band like that, that's a classic kind of old school metal band is using backing tracks
It's
to
like
play
it's like
instruments they should be able to play.
it's like I mean, it's a stupid analogy. It's like going to a sushi restaurant and they're serving you like McDonald's cheeseburgers. It's like it's a
Right.
different like if I go see Aerosmith, I don't want to hear Steven Tyler tracks. If I go see, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go see one a band of that caliber that I love. I wouldn't want to go see Extreme and Nuno Betancourt's guitars are on some backing track, doubling him or something. Like it's just we don't need that. So
Did you see
it's
the latest tour of Extreme?
no, I didn't, but I love their new record.
Yeah, I did too. I loved it. I had Gary on the show, and so I went and saw them. And actually, what surprised me was Living Color. They opened up, and they were amazing. Like I was always kind of a casual fan. I thought they sounded incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love them. That's
Yeah,
very cool. Yeah, Extreme are incredible.
yeah. Nuno. I mean, I know. Didn't he beat you out for the job with Rihanna?
No, we were going to do it together. He was
Oh, is that
already
what it
hired.
was? Okay.
Yeah, so he was hired and they wanted somebody that could kind of double him on stuff. And so, yeah, I went in and played with them for a little bit. And the tour didn't work. It didn't work out. Just she was going out for 2 years and they ended up getting somebody else. But the music director was a guy, I think his name's Tony Bruno. And like Rihanna loves rock guitar too. And Nuno is just such a monster. So Nuno's in there with like the octave guitar. They're putting stuff from like Get the Funk Out into the end of Rihanna songs. And I'm going,
Oh,
this is kind of
really?
cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Huh.
Like there'll be some little segue in the music. And yeah,
Didn't yeah?
that
Because
was
didn't Rihanna and Slash didn't they collaborate on maybe one of his solo records or something?
maybe. I know Fergie was on one of his solo
Or maybe
records,
that's what I'm
Slash's
thinking of.
records.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah,
He's
I mean,
I guess.
yeah. Yeah, I'm glad to see that band out there again. They're awesome.
Yeah. You don't really do a lot of live shows anymore. You're mostly studio guy, right?
I'll still go out occasionally, but I haven't been, you know, out on the like long stretch tours in a while now.
You
So
just prefer that? I mean, 'cause isn't
I
there something like a high to be playing live? Isn't that something that
yeah. Yeah. I mean the grass is always sometimes I'm out and I have so much stuff I'm doing here with I mentioned the film and TV music stuff
yeah.
that like, building I built that kind of as a ancillary thing to the touring stuff when I was touring nonstop, wanting to have something while I was home. And then that kind of took over as being, you know, where I was making the most money and it was going really well and it was creative and I loved it. Like it was like it's not like I'm doing jingles for
Right.
some Charmin commercial. It was like we need something that sounds like Queens of the Stone Age or Nine Inch Nails and it's like you get to be really creative. Whereas like, a lot of the pop tours and stuff I was doing, I had a ton of fun doing it, but it wasn't as guitar centric and some of them were just so long and like I loved it. I always feel like I sound like I was ungrateful or something. I still love doing it. I have friends that are out on the road and it's always grass is always greener. I see them I'm like, oh man, I wish I was doing that festival or doing this. It sounds so awesome. So I'll go out still. I'll go out with people. It's just scheduling. It's all it
Yeah.
always all oh, it's all it is
It
always.
just would be to me, it would be monotonous to be playing the same songs. Like you said, it's not very creative. I mean, yeah, it's better than like working a 9 to 5 chopping lumber or something, but it's I think creating music. Cause didn't you tell me, I think on the last interview we did, you were saying that you and your partner, you create basically a new album every 6 weeks or something.
Yeah, we try to do like a release every 6 weeks for our catalog that's in different styles. And, it caters to a lot of film and TV clients, advertising clients. And it's just a different outlet. And, a lot of guys, I wasn't the first to think to do this. A lot of guys like kind of in a similar background to me had done it, like Blue Saraceno
Right. I think we
is,
took
is big in
Eric
this
Turner from
world.
Warrant.
Yeah, the Warrant guys have a catalog of stuff they do in this world. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. And
It's lucrative, right?
it's lucrative. You're in the studio, you're working, you're doing fun stuff, and it's kind of different verticals. The music business isn't just one thing anymore. There are different things everyone's doing. So Uh, so yeah, I love going out and touring still, and we'll do it if it's the correct scenario and it's the right time.
Oh, really? When was the last tour that you've done?
The last tour I did was these girls, Ali and AJ, the last long tour.
Hmm.
I think I can't even remember the year because COVID years have me so like
Oh,
flustered. Or when was what? But
right.
everything else has kind of been like one-off shows. Like I've done some one-off shows with Sebastian, flying out. I've done some one-off shows with this band AWOL Nation, just when they've needed me. Where you're flying out, you're doing a festival, or you're doing a couple dates here. It's not the full tour. It's not you're gone for 8 weeks.
That seems like amazing. That would be fun. I would think that'd be better than, yeah, doing those full tours. Like that's just, especially the older you get. I feel like it'd be fun if you're like 22 and you're like you get to see the world and all this. But then the older
Yeah.
you get, I feel like, I'd want to just not tour.
Sometimes the tour is more fun though because you get in a routine. Like
Mm,
sometimes the flying in and out is like, okay, you're Friday. I got to get on this early flight. I got to do this, and
mhm.
you're kind of like when you get on tour and you get in a routine, especially with a good band and your crew and everybody. It's a blast. It's so much fun.
Yeah,
It is.
how would that routine look like? Like, is there certain things that, because I know that's one of the things with touring. A lot of these guys that I talk to, they're like, well, now I used to party too much. Now I'm sober. I'm like, this is like so common. And I feel like it was because the routine was just, they were so bored. Now we have smartphones and stuff. There's so many more things you can do. People can exercise on the road and stuff. Do you have a
It,
routine that you follow?
that's more of it. I remember being backstage at a Def Leppard show, maybe like I don't know, 8 years ago or something, and it was like wheatgrass juicers, personal trainers. I go, this is so different than like
Yeah.
1987. Like,
Oh, I think,
and
yeah,
it's
I think
cool to see. Yeah, yeah,
those guys like that metal like Jim Florentine and was it Don Jameson? One of them would joke about that they used to have the secret trap door in the stage, and then like back in the 80s they would use that was like the blowjob room or
yeah.
something.
You go down and
It's
you
got
hook up with
juicers or something.
none of that goes on. And there's like now it's like oh the kids are here and it's family and it's a different world. And you know what? It should be because you can't live that way. That whole like that's very short lived being able to party that hard and tour.
Right.
That's a young early 20s vibe, and if you don't knock it off, it's going to catch up to you. So I mean, look, you got 90 minutes, 2 hours on stage, the rest of the time is off. So yeah, there's time for people to get into trouble and to get bored, and that's what it lends itself to. And you also have hey, what do you want? There's a whole room. We'll bring you anything you want. You want this, you want that, and booze and any. So if you have bad habits, the road will definitely not be a good place for you. But more and more, man, these guys go out. Yeah, when I say routine, they're getting in better routines. Like, okay, I
Yeah.
got to take care of my voice. Yeah, I'm going to go to the hotel gym. I'm going to go to Soundcheck.
Hmm.
I mean, I try to, but I don't always.
Did you ever get tempted with the drug stuff? Like, I don't know. I never did like any of the I never tried cocaine or anything like that. Like, but then I guess I don't remember ever being offered that. So I don't know if it was there. Like, what do you
I
do?
kind of, I kind of missed a lot of that. Like,
Hmm.
I started. I started touring in 2002, and a lot of that, like, you know, shit you read about in the dirt, that wasn't going on. It just wasn't. And like, there are pockets of it that exist, sure, but like I think people had like their idea of what's going on backstage at a show. It became almost like a caricature of some like book or story they read, where I'm like, that's not really what's going on now. That's not
Right.
what people,
Yeah. But it was, yeah, because like even in Sebastian's book, he talked about like I just remember
Yeah,
as a kid and reading Metal Edge. I think I told him this when I met him at a book signing. I was like, when I read about you in Metal Edge, you would say like, don't do hard drugs and all this. Like I knew he was always into weed, but then when I read his book, I was like, holy shit, there's a lot of cocaine stories in this book. I was like, he didn't mention this in Metal Edge, and he goes, that's because Metal Edge was for kids. And I was like, oh, okay, well that's fair.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'll omit some stories from some of my earlier touring days, but yeah, there were pockets of like wild behavior where you look back on it and you go, oh my god, like what were we thinking? But the other thing that changed everything is the smartphone. That you're being
Right.
documented everywhere now. Like everything's going to be filmed and broadcast to the world. So I will tell
Yeah.
any young guy in a band out there, like, dude, you are on blast 24/7. So behave
Dude,
yourself.
seriously, I saw this girl that I follow on Instagram. I don't know her super well, but she had all these stories, and it was about this guy that she dated. He cheated on me, and he's not really sorry. These are alligator tears. And then like the last story was like a picture of him like doggy style with this girl, and it's like, I guess this is how I found out. I found it on your phone. I was like, whoa, like she just put this guy on blast. I was like, maybe this generation will, it'll teach men to behave better because they will put
Well,
you on blast.
you just, yeah, you better not be up to any nonsense because everyone's got their phones out, everyone's filming everything, they're tagging this and so this whole idea of like when you talk about like, the old era of rock and roll and partying and like you read about Zeppelin and like
Yeah.
they would be gone, they'd be out of town, nobody knows how to get a hold of these. It's like not anymore.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting too, because like I said, I've done so many of these interviews. And then, I mean, you even look at Motley Crue, like, well, I know Nikki is definitely sober. I don't know about Tommy and Vince. I think they're still kind of flirting a little bit, but like they've obviously toned it way down. So it's like, it seems to be like that is kind of eventually the path. Like you said, you got to knock it off a little bit, or they just do a total 180 and then they're like the Def Leppard, they're doing juicers and stuff instead of binge drinking.
Dude, those guys are you can't party like that at that age. You're going to drop dead. It's just you
Yeah.
can't.
It's not even
It's
fun. I mean, I'm
no, you've done
46
it.
and it's like if I have more than like 3 drinks, I'm like, what the hell did I do to myself? It's like I was literally drinking poison, which is, I mean, what you're doing. But when you're in your 20s, you can recover in a day. And now it's like, you have more than like 3 or 4. It's like you feel that for a few days, if not like
There
a
are
week.
not. Yeah, there are not a lot of 80-year-old drug addicts. They just aren't. Just
No, I mean, I know the Rolling Stones. I don't know. Are they still? I mean,
he. I would bet. I don't know. I would bet a lot of the Keith Richards like mystery. I'll bet a lot of that is a little, you know, romanticized. But when you read his book, I don't know if you read his book.
no.
He is
Is it good?
interesting. Yeah, Life. Yeah, Keith Richards' book Life, his autobiography, is interesting because he always talked about he did drugs, but for some reason he didn't have an addictive personality. He could like he goes, I could do a little bit of heroin and stop. Which I go, that is not
Wow.
common for a lot of these guys. And
Well,
he's just like,
and
yeah,
especially, yeah, because you have that personality, like with Sebastian, you're saying he really cares about the music and he's so passionate. And it's like, those are usually the personalities that get addicted to shit like drugs.
yeah. I mean, I can tell you, he doesn't do anything. I mean, red wine and some weed, and yeah, it's. I don't know a lot of these guys that are doing any of that stuff anymore. I just don't. I can't. I
Yeah.
can't think of anyone doing. Yeah, and
Yeah,
you,
like
you
all the
wouldn't
Guns
want
N'
you,
Roses guys are sober, Slash and Duff at least. I mean, I don't know about Axel.
dude.
Axel's such a mystery. I don't know if he drinks at all or.
I don't know him, but like, yeah, I mean, Duff McKagan could run a, he could do a triathlon tomorrow. Like, these guys are in better shape now than they were back in the day. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
he's like, how does Duff like? Because you were kind of friends with. That's how you met Sebastian. What is Duff's workout routine? Because he's got like a 6 pack.
I don't know. I wish I knew. I wish I could do it. I would.
Do you follow that? Do you try to do some sort of workout routine or anything? Or
Yeah, I just try to be modestly mindful of health. I'm 41 now, so it starts to catch up with you. Can't eat pizza every night and drink every night, like just little mindful things. But I'm not religious about anything.
yeah, that's the around the age where it starts to catch up big time. Like, yeah, you have to like at least for me, I know I had to, especially even in my 30s, I felt like I had to slow down with the drinking and the junk food and all that. But it's like it's hard too because man, there's some amazing junk food out there.
Oh, I love it. It's the best. But yeah, I mean, your brain keeps telling you like this is the right thing to do, but then you go, oh, wait a second, not
Yeah.
I should not be doing that.
Pizza, wine. Oh, so good. I miss it.
I'm going to do that tonight. Now that you said that,
Hey, it's Friday night. You get even my
yeah, why
trainer
not?
is telling me I get a cheat meal, but it's tough to stick
I
to the
just
regimen all the time.
we live in a crazy time. Common sense about things, I think, is what I live by. So
Yeah, because I think there's some you have to be able to enjoy life a little bit. I know for some people, like like I said, with the addictive personality, they have to do that 180 where they're like, they can't even have a glass of wine because that turns
You,
into 8
you,
glasses.
I have a close friend he's been on the carnivore diet for 3 years
Oh yeah.
and
I'm always
loves it.
curious about that.
So I did it for about 6 weeks
Wow.
and I did feel amazing. I lost 10 pounds. I felt great, but it was very difficult for me. It was difficult to like have a routine that like if I was home only and really controlling everything, but it was difficult to go out and keep it active because it's kind of a crazy diet. And like I'd seen people raving about it and he raved about it. He was just like, I've never been healthier. And I go, it sounds counterintuitive to anything I had ever known. And maybe I'll do it again at some point, but I couldn't,
But you felt
like you
amazing.
said,
That's what's so interesting to me.
yeah, no, I felt great. But it was, I didn't want to go out to a party or I didn't want to go out to I didn't want to go places because it's like, that's where it would break down. And I remember the night, like, my wife and I went and saw Weezer were playing and we got invited to the show and we went and I was there and I'm like kind of just hungry because you're always kind of like, when you're eating just like steak or something, that's all you're eating. It's very, uh, you'll see something and I'm like, I'm starving and I'm here. I'm like, fuck it. I'm getting it. It was pizza. I go, I'm getting that pizza. I was like, you just feel that way. So
Yeah, I
it's
wonder if you
cool.
could
But
do could you still call it a carnivore diet if you're mostly carnivore, but you have an occasional cheat meal?
I
Because
guess, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that's probably the more accurate way to do it. I was just more curious about, okay, let's see what this is.
yeah.
Like, I'll try it.
So for six
And
weeks you did it straight and you felt great.
yeah, I did.
Did the
Yeah. I mean,
cravings go away?
I'm not recommending it. I don't have like, I don't have a sweet tooth or anything. So I didn't like, but
Was it what food did you miss the most? Pizza or
yeah, it's just bread and like pasta. Like,
yeah.
yeah, like a
And
penne
wine. You can't have
arrabbiata.
wine would be against the rules.
I was doing vodka sodas though, because that was keto
Oh, that
friendly.
counts? You could
I
do
think
vodka
so.
sodas?
Yeah, it's like no sugars. Yeah.
Okay. That's not too bad. A little lime in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get the what is the one vodka that's like it's so like perfect. It actually tastes good like just with like a club soda. Like you it doesn't taste
I don't
bitter.
know.
I'm trying to remember like
I like Tito's. I like
Tito's. Yeah, that's the one. That's the because
yeah.
I think it's
Oh,
like is it made with potatoes or something? So it's like keto friendly and yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how it's different. I mean, but yeah, that's like a good sipping some club soda. It's a good one.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Yeah. Awesome. Well, this record is out now. And
So
yeah. We should can't remember if I'd reached out after it might have been like I reached out like right after it came, but it's out now, so people don't have to like tell you the release date. You can get it. Well, although I think the vinyl and stuff is still on pre-order, right?
I don't know. I think it's available. I've
Oh,
seen
is
people
it?
with it. Yeah.
Oh, did they get it the advanced copy? I thought it said, yeah, maybe the website was wrong because I
Uh,
thought the website said pre-order. So I was kind of that's what I was
maybe
confused. 'Cause I,
that's a big issue now. Is vinyl pressing is very difficult. There
yes,
aren't a lot of
it
like
takes a lot longer to do
yeah,
it.
like Smashing Pumpkins talked about it, where they were like, we can't press these for like, we have to do it 9 months in advance. Metallica bought their own vinyl pressing facility. Taylor Swift bought her own vinyl pressing facility because they're at a level where they could do that. But bands are lining up to get their vinyls made. There's just not enough.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it
Good
does
problem
say
to have.
I think it
It's
said
available.
pre-order, but now you click and it says order. Okay, so yeah, it's like $40 for the vinyl glow in the dark. That's pretty badass. And then you can get a T-shirt. You can get these packages and stuff. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Or you
he's
can get a
such a
cassette. That's hilarious.
he's such a
Sold
vinyl
out.
fan.
The cassette is sold out. That's crazy. That's
That's
fun though.
awesome.
Is there
My
have
first
you,
my first albums were cassettes.
were they? That's yeah, that's yeah. I remember cassettes. I'm that old. I think my first thing was a record. I think it was like the Wham! Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. It was like the single. That was my first musical record, and then cassettes, and then CDs, and now streaming. And then maybe they'll come up with some new thing. Who knows?
That'll be the Neuralink in your brain. Will just play music in your head.
That's scary shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exciting. The future is exciting, but also scary with all the AI and all that. Because then could that replace your job with the AI? They could just be like, "Hey AI, write me a song that sounds like Skid Row meets Guns N' Roses," and they just boop,
You
they just
know,
pump it out.
when the ATM came out, everyone thought there'd be no more bank tellers. And today there are more bank tellers than before the ATM came out
Really?
because, yes, because there were more opportunities for more branches of banks. Now that could change again, but my point
Yeah.
in that story is we kind of never know what this technology is going to do. And from what I've seen, yeah, there are aspects of it that could change, especially for like stuff in the TV world, possibly. But a lot of it, it could just be a tool that makes more opportunities for more stuff to happen. That's good for music. So I don't know. I tend to be an optimist and not like default to the end times are coming, like Cyberdyne Systems T2. Like I try to not look that way. It's just so early to tell. I don't think I've played with stuff where you type in something and it's novel and it's cute, but it doesn't, it's not writing Bohemian Rhapsody or it's not like, it's not doing anything that's really that amazing outside of just, oh, wow, that kind of does sound like that.
Yeah, I think I heard one that was a Nirvana so it was like a new Nirvana song. It was interesting. It sounded like Nirvana.
Yeah, well, I mean, lawyers are going to have a lot of fun going after people for this and their likeness, and who knows? I mean, I know there are people trying to draft legislation to protect artists and
Right.
people, and
Well, that was what the whole
that's
Hollywood strike was about. That was a big piece of it was the actors and actresses because they wanted to be able to use their likeness with AI
that
and they said
was
no.
that was a variable in that. Yeah, I mean, that
Yeah.
was definitely like a a big part of the strike. That yeah, I mean, if you could I mean, you're not gonna like someone like Margot Robbie. They're not gonna do that too, but maybe background actors they would do it too. So it's going to affect them, and then it's like, okay, how do we protect that? Because you can do a lot with this.
Yeah, and then also like actors and actresses that are dead, they could like didn't they what was that commercial where they had John Wayne vacuuming or something like there's
Yeah, but that'll be who controls their estate's going to license that.
right.
They're going to say like, yeah, you can use Frank Sinatra in this.
So crazy, yeah, to think about. I guess I don't know. I'm sure I don't know if podcasters will be replaced, but yeah, I'll find something else to do. I guess if
I
that's
don't. I just don't. I mean, you know, TV is as smart and as dumb as it's ever been all at the same time. It's like new. I don't necessarily think it's going to replace, but it could augment like certain parts of it and be
yeah,
different.
yeah. I mean, you just never know. Nobody knows the future. What's going to happen, but it is just we're living in a very wild time for a
It's
lot of
moving.
people.
It's definitely. I think the rate of change is what's scaring people. Is it's like we all expect things to change, but when it seems like, oh, last week this didn't exist, and then now there's something that can book flights for me with AI. Like it's just crazy the rate of change.
Yeah, and then it's like for an older guy like me, I'm kind of like, am I going to be able to even understand how to use this? Like maybe there's all this cool stuff that AI can do, but I don't understand it enough to be able to use it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
But the thing
I
is
won't
too that
understand it.
the one skill that, or the many skills that it can't do, at least unless they have fully formed robots, is like an AI can't like change your light bulbs and like fix your car and all that stuff, all the mechanical things that, and a lot of people don't have those skills. And so I
Have
would like
you
to kind of,
have you seen the South Park
yes,
where yeah,
exactly.
the tradespeople are the new like billionaires and rich, and
Yes, exactly.
the guy who can fix the sink is now the most in demand, where all the office workers are just
Right.
completely obsolete. Yeah, I mean, I
Exactly.
think you will see a shift in that to a degree.
Yeah. Well, because I think like, because when I was a kid, my parents like they're like push college so much, college, college. If you don't go to college, you're gonna end up working at McDonald's. And so like, and then when I worked in the schools, it was the same that we pushed that on the kids, college, college, university, university. And it's like, I think we went too far the other way. And now all the people that were the blue collar workers they're making a lot more than these people with a master's in, uh, French literature or whatever that these
And they're
degrees.
not in debt.
Yeah. And they're not in debt. Exactly. And
Yeah,
so,
it's college. has an important role if you know what you're going after. You're going to go
Yes.
be a lawyer or a doctor. You
Yes.
need to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to people used to like submit when I would like put bands together for different artists as a music director role, where they would go, well, I got a degree from Berkeley. I go, that's irrelevant. Let me see you play. Like that doesn't do anything on a stage.
Exactly.
Like have you ever played gigs? Have you been in
Yeah.
a bar in front of 4 people and 3 of them hate you?
Yeah.
And do you know how to, you know, do a live show? I don't care that you were in a classroom or
Right.
a
Yeah, what do you
YouTube.
look at exactly? It's like maybe a guy has a master's degree from Harvard in business, but they've never built a business. And this guy over here has a high school diploma, but he built a business from zero to $10 million. I'm like, I'm
you,
gonna
you
listen to that guy more.
you can read every book in the world about karate, but until you've been in a fight, you don't know shit. That's just it.
Yeah.
Like that's so yeah. A lot of these thought application degrees, people don't know what to do with it. So
Well, and part of it is just talent. Like, I mean, I could have gone to school and gotten a master's in music. I'm never gonna be able to play guitar like you are. Like, you just have that talent and it's just there. I mean, I could get better. I could be the best version of me, but I'm never gonna be as good as you.
yeah, I mean, I think I heard Paul Gilbert say this one time when he was talking about uh, MI maybe, and just kind of how it wasn't like it taught me like how to do something on guitar. It was just I was immersed in being there and playing 15 hours a day. And it was more about like everything around him was just like myopic. The focus was practice. And like there was value in that. So like from that standpoint, I could see a lot of value in going to, if you're going to a film school and you're just around all like-minded people who are all
Yeah.
working towards the same thing. But the degree isn't going to make you a great director. It's just
Right.
that isn't the catalyst to then, okay, well now I get to make
Yeah.
a movie for Universal Pictures. No, that doesn't
Yeah.
work that way.
If you have the talent, it can help you harness that. But I also feel like you could learn the talent in other things, like in just being in a bunch of bands and doing all that kind of stuff. But
Well, that's what matters more in this industry is that
yeah,
the experience.
right. And
And
then I think the networking is, I think it was maybe Sam Bam Colton talked about, he went to some music school in LA. And I think he like got a lot of networking through it because you're meeting all these other people who are trying to be in bands. And so that
yeah,
you kind of know everybody in your class. And
that is the, intangible value of that is like being in that circle. And that's where a lot of the value I think is derived. Like where yeah, you were in the scene and you're immersed in it. You're going to know this guy, and that's this whole business. It's a relationship business. This person's going to call you and say, uh, oh, I know this great guitar player. I know this great drummer, and you don't know where that's coming from. Or I worked with this guy one time over here.
hmm,
So
I'm
yeah,
still waiting for that phone call, but yeah,
oh, well, you never know. You never know where it
yeah.
comes from.
Yeah, because then this happened for you so much. Like, I mean, from all these different people, like then you met Duff, then Duff introduced you to
Oh,
Sebastian Bach, and
that's
then
that's everything in this business is that. It's a
yeah,
version of that. And if when you look at it in reverse, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be like, oh, I worked with this guy and then I met this person and then, oh, I haven't talked to him in years, but this went well. And then now he's doing that. Whatever it is, it's like it all makes sense looking backwards, but
hmm.
that's a reason why you don't want to be a dick. You don't want to have an ego. You don't want to, ruffle feathers and burn bridges along the way because you have no clue.
Yeah, I just try to help everybody. I mean, as much as I can, like, but I try to help other podcasters, like, especially if they want a guest that I had. I'm like, oh, here, let me help you get that
Nice.
guest. Like, I don't know. I mean, I just try to help. Like, I mean, yeah, are podcasters in competition? I mean, I guess, but like, is it really going to hurt? Once I've already had a guest on the show, if I help somebody else land that guest, and it's not really going to hurt me. I feel like it's going to help. And then, they hopefully would reciprocate, which many
Well,
have. I've had a lot of other podcasters help me get some amazing guests. It's been awesome.
nice. Yeah, I mean, and obviously, if the person you refer does it, it's because they want to do it, and there's a value to
Yeah.
them. So yeah,
Right.
I think
Do
that's
you
all.
help other guitar players? Like, uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
all the time. Yeah, I mean, I'm not I'm not in competition, and I don't look at it that way. It's not a zero sum game at all.
right.
So
Because some things are not a good fit for you, but you're like, oh, well, I don't think this is a good fit for me, but I know this other guy that would be a great fit.
I did it 2 days ago
Oh,
or
really?
something. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, sometimes it works out amazing. Sometimes it doesn't. But if you can help connect dots for people, that's, that'll come back at some point.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I referred a girl to you. I don't know if you ever ended up working with her, but I thought she was pretty talented. She was a big Avril Lavigne fan. So I was like, hey, you should try to like write a
Oh,
song
yeah. I
guitar.
remember speaking with her. Yeah. She is
Yeah.
talented. She's very good.
Yeah,
Yeah. We
there's a
didn't do
lot.
anything together, but yeah, it was cool I mean, that's it. You just kind of never know. Maybe one day we will.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Like there's so much talent out there. It's sad when you see some people that are so talented and it just, for whatever reason, they don't make it or it doesn't click. And it's just like, gosh, what went wrong? But I guess that again, you got to have that like Sebastian Bach type passion for this kind of thing to really be a little bit crazy and go all in on it.
You just never, you never know these, like, even just chance encounters you read about, speaking Keith Richards and Mick Jagger meeting, and like, what if they didn't, what if he didn't go that day to the same spot and they didn't meet? Like all little things you just don't think about. But yeah, connections, especially. I mean, that is the value of like, centralized. And there's different genres. Like Nashville's got its whole scene, New York's got its scene, LA has its thing with people. But my friend Steve Ferlazzo, who I hired to play with Avril, who's now her music director, still touring with her.
Hmm.
He does this thing in LA called Soundcheck Live, which is like an all-star jam type of thing. And guys like Nuno, uh, Glenn Sobel plays with Alice Cooper. I did it once. It was me and Rudy Sarzo. So it's a lot of like guys, and then younger up and coming people. Uh, they almost had the David Lee Roth, Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan reunion at this thing. I don't know if you read about this. They were going to
What is it
do it
called again?
Soundcheck Live.
Oh
They
yeah,
do
yeah.
it
It's one of the, is that the one at in LA?
Lucky Strike. They do it
Lucky
at,
Strike, yeah.
and so Steve Ferlazzo. It was Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan, and Greg Bissonette were going to come down and play. And I guess David Lee Roth heard about it and said, well, I'll come do it. So it was like you were going to get this de facto reunion. And I guess I don't know if it got leaked. I mean, I'm speaking out of turn now because Steve Palazzo would know the whole story. But the place got inundated where thousands and thousands of people show up. So the fire marshal shut it down before it could happen. So it never happened.
Oh shit.
But it was like you're about to see, the David Lee Roth band era reunite for the first time at this bowling alley. And I say bowling alley, it's very nice. It's a very cool stage. But the point is, Steve Palazzo does this thing and he puts a ton of work into it. And it's very cool to see all these different musicians from all these different guys who tour with pop acts that are side hired guys, studio musicians, guys from, famous 80s bands. Uh, I think Sebastian did it one time. He came up and sang something that, one time.
Yeah. No,
And
it's amazing. Like when you see these guys, like I even had like Kid Rock's a piano player on my show. And I was like, oh, okay, let me do like a little research on him. And what else does he do anything else besides Kid Rock? Oh, he has a solo thing. And I thought his solo stuff was awesome. I was like, dude, this is like old school blues and stuff. And he's
that's
singing.
cool.
And he's just the side piano player for Kid Rock. I mean, it's amazing that the level of talent, it's just music is so competitive in some ways. It's hard to, I mean, I felt like Jimmy Bones, like the Kid Rock piano player. I'm like, this guy should just be out touring on his own. But it's like, it's so hard to do that, to get to that level where you have enough people that are going to come see you. And
yeah, I mean, back to, getting to do this record with Sebastian and Jeremy and Todd. It's like, I never found like a band when I was coming up and I was like, we felt like, okay, we're a unit. So it's cool to like get to feel that, even though I'm doing a solo record for Sebastian coming in and making this, but like, I never had the quintessential singer front man that I found that was like gonna, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do anything close to that. So it was, unless you find that person, you could be good at this instrument, but it's about the collective and it's about the whole group.
yeah,
So a lot of guys, and I know tons of them, they're insanely talented, and you kind of can fall into this world of hired gun work. I know there was a documentary about it, and where you become a sideman, and it's a fun life, and you make money, and you get to tour, and you get to do stuff, but you don't focus. It's not the traditional, like when I came up in music, I just assumed, I go, oh, well, you're in a band, and if you're lucky, you get a record deal, and then you go on the road, and that's the only trajectory in music. I didn't even think there was this world of, oh, people who can make, some money playing, for somebody else.
Yeah, that is an interesting world. I watched that documentary, and I think Jason Hook from Five Finger Death Punch is in that one.
The first time I ever saw Jason Hook, he was playing guitar for Hilary Duff.
Yeah,
I don't know if people know that. Like,
right,
I mean,
I did know that. Yeah, and he was in Bullet Boys for a little bit too.
Yeah, but I go, that was, it's like, okay, so this guy who then, he's this amazing shredder metal guitarist that goes on Five Finger Death Punch, was like with a, Nickelodeon girl at radio shows that I was playing at, and it's like there's a lot of those guys. There's a lot of like guys who, and it's
you got to make a living.
You got to make a living, and there's really pros and cons to all of it. I remember when I was putting Avril's band together during the third record, the amount of guys that reached out to me that I would never think would want to do hired gun stuff, that wanted to do it, that were just like, man, I want to do something in the pop world that's a little more like mellow and not as crazy and like not as raucous. It was like interesting to me. I was like, oh, that makes me feel kind of like we got something good going on here, which we did. I mean, there are benefits to all of it, and it's a different world. And yeah, you can have a guy, he goes out with his band, and then he goes out maybe if he's lucky with some pop artist. And, you look at some of these bigger acts, they get name people. Steve Lukather was a hired gun touring guy for people for years.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because like you're just so underrated in my opinion. Like, I'm glad that I had you on before too. And then I hear Eddie Trunk raving about you, and I was like, oh, I need to have you back. Cause like, I mean, you could have called this record Bach Bronson. I mean, cause you're as much of a part of it as he is almost.
Well, that's nice of you to say. And I mean, I definitely look at it as, we came into this, we're doing his solo record, and I'm glad I get to collaborate. Kind of, the comparison for me would be like Zakk Wylde with Ozzy, maybe. Like, yes, I could come in and kind of have, from the musical standpoint, put my fingerprint on it and then let him make it his. And it's his record. And, I appreciate that, because it's also, I am up, there are bigger names on these records sometimes. And yeah, I'm not, I'm very content with what I do. And like, that's, yeah, it's nice and it's fun. And I'm glad, to me, it's more, I'm grateful I get to do it, because sometimes it's like, oh, I get to kind of cut loose and do something really over the top on this album. That's fun versus maybe the restrained world I'm living in on other projects.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you get to be creative, and then you get to do some shows here. And I mean, you're living the life. It's amazing.
I'm trying.
Cool, man. Well, I will get this episode up soon. Anything else you want to promote, or people should follow you on Instagram? You're great follow on Instagram. You post great stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to be more active. Yeah, Instagram and Twitter. I'm very bad about being active, but I'm trying to get better.
No, I think you're good. I think, because like, you don't want to see the people. You ever follow the people on Instagram and you look at the stories and it's just like dots because they've posted stories. Like,
you'll never see that from me.
You don't post too much. So I feel like, to me, like, I feel like that's worse when people post too much, because then I feel like that's why I try to be careful. I'm like, oh God, I posted like 5 stories today. This is way too much. People are going to unfollow me. So
to me, it's about something. It's got to be funny. It's got to be like innocuous and funny. Like, I'm not there to talk about horrible geopolitics or like elections. I'm not doing any of that. Like, that to me, it's like goofy stuff. And there's some funny stuff. Yeah, Todd Kearns is a good follow on Instagram too. He's always just posting goofy stuff where I'm always sending him just really, it is like a treasure trove of nonsense on Instagram. So it can be fun if you treat it that way.
Absolutely. Cool. All right, man. Well, thanks for doing this.
Dude, it was fun talking to you.
Good to talk to you too. All right.
See ya.
Yeah.